Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Nana Potenza, the Marketing and Communications Manager at the Tompkins Chamber. Welcome to our last session for Workforce Week. We are happy to have partnered with CFCU Community Credit Union with support of Live in Ithaca to host this week of programming. We've had some great conversations all week long, and I am so happy to be here this morning with you all to focus on our well-being with Hillary Davis. Hillary teaches yoga and mindfulness, and she also offers health coaching. If any of you are looking for group work to be done within your business organization, I highly recommend contacting Hillary, as she's an amazing, thoughtful, and articulate teacher with a vast amount of knowledge. So with that, I'll let Hillary take over.
Thanks so much, Nana. So first, good morning, Yolanda. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Tania.
Good morning.
Good morning. So first, we're just going to take 5 deep breaths together, and some more people may be filtering in the next few minutes. We're just going to settle our attention and land together. Then I'll talk for a few minutes. We're going to do some seating ergonomics, show you a few stretching exercises, a writing contemplation, some group conversation, but we'll breathe first to get settled. So wherever you are, just roll your shoulders up and back. Nice long side body, preferably feet on the floor, and close your eyes and take 5 deep breaths. And as you finish, you can float your eyes open, take your time. I'm just putting a prompt, a question for you into the chat. You can chat the group in response. Just any strategy for stress management that's already working well for you, any habit or way of relaxing that you either do at work or that sets you up well for when you are at work. While people are taking that in and adding to the chat, I'm just gonna describe a few housekeeping notes before we get going. So one is the offering or suggestion that you put your phone on airplane mode if you are able. And some of you are at work and won't be able to do that, and some of you will and can just make a decision about that. Things that you'll want for this session are a notebook and a pen or pencil, or a Word doc or a note page on your computer where you can write. Maybe a glass of water, if possible, a wall space where you can put your hands on the wall for some of the stretching we're going to do. And again, I know some of you are in office settings, so you're just going to make do with what you have available. You want your phone or another timer. And also, we are going to do a paired exercise where your attention will be required. So if it's possible for you to not be doing other things while you're in this session that's about focusing your attention and mindful practice, that's great. And if there are other things that need or require your attention during the session, that's okay too. So as you're seated, notice if your screen is at a natural eye level. Hello to the people filtering in. I'm gonna put that prompt into the chat one more time for those that just arrived. And send that your way. Great. I see a daily walk and yoga meditation, taking a walk away from work for a moment, sort of a reset, some music and deep breath, all great strategies. So notice how you're sitting right now. If your screen is at a natural eye level, if you have to look up or look down at your screen, consider that you might be able to adjust that. If you're on a desktop, it might not be available right now. It might be a longer term project. But if you're on a laptop or your seat is adjustable, you can put a stack of books underneath your laptop so that natural eye level where the front of your throat is as open as the back of your neck is long. So you're not, setting up that tech neck in the cervical spine or tipping the chin up so that the back of your neck is shortened. Just a natural eye level is a great, simple place to start in setting yourself up for healthy ergonomics in your body while you're at work. Great. Okay. So this is what I want to say to you. Your health and well-being and the quality of your attention are amongst your greatest resources. It's with these aspects of your aliveness that you experience and enjoy the world. The more present and well you are, the more vivid your day-to-day experience, and the more energy you have to offer to other human beings. This applies universally, meaning at work as well as everywhere else. Remember that your mental and emotional health, they live in your body. That's where they're located. They're not separate, but deeply interconnected with your physical health. So you could consider caring for yourself as a whole person. Your physical well-being is related to your mental health. Your mental health is related to your physical well-being. I suggest the perspective that you think about change as both personal and collective. You want to claim any shred of personal agency possible with which you can change behaviors and habits that are not currently well set up to support or optimize your well-being. And also to recognize where collective or systemic change would be necessary at work for you to be able to maintain your well-being. In this way, you can claim your own power without blaming yourself for systems that may not be particularly well set up to support you, and look at these systems from a perspective of creative, solution-oriented thinking. So with all that in mind, we're going to do a writing exercise called the power contemplation. And for this exercise, I'm going to give you a particular question, but you can use this strategy anytime you're facing a stressful decision or looking for an answer to something that feels unclear. So I'm going to place an outline of this exercise in the chat, and then we're going to walk through it together. So you want your pen or pencil, notebook, or a Word doc or note in your computer. And this is the question. What is your long-term vision for your health, wellness, and stress management as it relates to work? And here's how we walk through the strategy of this formal contemplation. It's an acronym. The P stands for prepare your space. So whether you are at home or at work, this can look like closing a door for privacy, setting up your seat in a way that you can really have a long spine and be alert. If you're at home, it might mean lighting a candle. It's any simple action that signals to your mind and body that you're about to engage in a practice to prepare the space. Secondly, the O, optimize your inquiry. It means choosing a question. And in this instance, I've chosen it for you. The question is, what is your long-term vision for your health, wellness, and stress management as it relates to work? And when you engage in this contemplation practice for yourself, you might pick one question, go through the exercise, and discover, oh, it's really a different question that I want to ask. So it's a process of refining, using your attention. After you've chosen a question, you write. So it's a free write for a couple of minutes. I'm going to set a timer. You just write any first thoughts, can be stream of consciousness or words, doesn't have to be even complete sentences. What comes to mind when you consider this long-term vision of health and well-being and stress management as it relates to your work world? It doesn't have to be exclusively about work. You might find that your vision connects to all aspects of your life. You just write whatever comes to mind, give yourself a couple of minutes. Just about one more minute. And start to wrap up any last thoughts. Good. Okay. So now the E stands for engage. And this is where you just get quiet for a minute and see if any other thoughts arise. So again, I'm just going to set a timer this time for 1 minute. You choose, you can keep your gaze soft or close your eyes. You can turn your camera off for this part if it's helpful. Just 1 minute to sit with your breath. See if you can get quiet and notice if anything else arises in response to your inquiry. You've taken a couple of minutes to jot down initial surface thoughts. You just get quiet with your breath and engage. Great, that's a minute. And start to bring yourself back. And now the R is for record. You just jot down any fresh words or repetition, anything that came up as you sat and got quiet. Just 1 more minute to jot down, record anything that arose as you sat with your breath. Might be similar, might be an extrapolation on your first thoughts. Recording anything else that came up as you sat and got quiet. And just about 10 more seconds. Wrap up any last thoughts. Great. Okay. So take yourself off mute if you're willing and what came up in that process? So you can just say anything you noticed, the difference between writing and recording, what it felt like to get quiet and breathe. Was it useful? Was it different than other strategies you've used? Have a conversation about anything that you noticed in this contemplation. You can put something in the chat if you'd prefer. I know that you all have good thinking minds, so take yourself off mute and share them with me.
All right, Chris here. So I like to prepare my space in the morning before work, and I do some yoga and meditation before I
Yeah,
go into the day. And when I'm working from home or working from the office, um, I like to have my space to work. And if I'm at home, that means showing myself in and kind of putting my nose to the grindstone. But I like to have my cup of coffee here, and then get my screens up if I need them, and then just sort of focus on the day ahead. And I haven't really taken the time to take a break once I start doing that. So
yeah,
being quiet for a minute was a little tough because I think this cup of coffee has kicked in already, and I'm
yeah,
shaking my leg under the desk here and thinking
yeah,
about what I need to get done. But I think that it's important to fit those little breaks in. I wrote down room to breathe, so
yeah.
I think that's important.
That's great. Yeah, room to breathe. And it's so true, a great noticing. It's like the day of work, it has its own momentum. So it requires an effort to slow down and get quiet for a minute. Like, can we actually gather our attention from the meeting that happened yesterday and what's gonna be required of you later into the day to be present for 1 minute?
Yeah.
It can be really challenging.
It can be.
And like you said, the phrase that arose in contrast to the momentum of nose to the grindstone was room to breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
It's a balance.
Yeah, a balance. Absolutely. Anybody else? What came up as you checked out this process? What was it like for you?
I was surprised at how quickly I was writing a lot of things down. But the thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I'm really struggling with, and the first thing that I wrote down is figuring out how to have more standing and more moving of bodies rather than so much sitting. And it's really, really hard for those of us that are bound to very computer and desk oriented positions. And it's especially in the last couple of years, right? Even the opportunities to go out and get in your car and then get out of your car and walk to somewhere for a meeting all but disappeared, and still is very, very spotty for those opportunities returning. And I just think there's going to be so many more health impacts. Even like we all know sitting at a desk is like already so unhealthy, but it's just exacerbated. And I just think that being stuck in your chair and the constant computer, staring at the computers and the constant attention being pulled in a million directions is all, going to be long-term very unhealthy for all of us. So finding ways to mitigate that and take breaks from it and get up and move our bodies throughout the day just seems so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, what you're saying also speaks to this challenge where it requires a real effort if you want to build in the time to stand or a stretch break, or I'm going to set a timer, and when it goes off, I'm going out and I'm walking for 10 minutes. Then I'm going to come back and build that into my day, where the momentum, the same thing that Chris was speaking to, can just really anchor us to our screen and to our desk. And some of these impulses are actually really positive. We want to be productive and useful and engaged. But when it becomes compulsive and unconscious, it doesn't feel good anymore, and our efficiency starts to plummet. So, kind of thinking about how our effectiveness at work can really be buoyed and benefit from these ways that we take care of ourselves, instead of thinking of them as things that are in conflict with one another, right? And it also reminds me, Jennifer, of this synthesis, or the need for the individual and the collective systemic setups to really be woven together. It's like, how can we set up our workplaces, our organizations, and our businesses to have like built-in team stretch time, or a timer that goes off at a certain time where everybody, is going to stand up, or, those things that are like we're real collaborators, we're real group thinkers. And so we benefit when we don't feel like we have to like just do it all by ourselves, right? This is all great. Take the Wegmans stretch. Yes, everybody's been in Wegmans when the announcement goes off for everybody to move their bodies. That's great. Okay, anybody else want to say anything about this contemplation? What came up, what it was like, if it was tricky, annoying, enjoyable?
Actually, what I noticed is it's different than what I normally have happen. Is a lot of times, given, in workshops or whatever, given something to write down, I often can't write stuff down. And I feel like this time, actually taking the couple breaths beforehand, I was actually able to write a lot more. And then during the thought time, which a lot of times then my mind is going like all over the place, this time I was more focused on like more specific stuff.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting.
That's great. Yeah, the power of a few deep breaths cannot be overstated. It is incredible how our nervous systems respond to a simple act of deep conscious breathing. And the same way we were talking about our mental and emotional health living in the body, if you take some deep breaths for 1 minute, your circulation is improved for over an hour. Like our bodies really respond to these simple mechanisms. And where does our mind live? Inside of our bodies. So just really interesting and great noticing, Yolanda, of like, oh, the setup of taking a few deep breaths affected how my mind worked once we began the contemplation. Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for all of your sharing. Really love getting your thoughts into the mix. I am going to turn my video off for a moment as I switch to another station. This is going to be the part of our being together where we're going to explore some seating ergonomics and simple stretching. So if you are in a seat, that's a fine place to start. If you have an open wall space available, that will be useful. And I will be back with you in just a moment. Okay.
Magic.
So you can see this chair. Okay, so first we're just going to look at, Nana, can you still hear me well? Okay, we're just going to look at seating ergonomics for a minute. So I'm just in a regular dining chair, and I think I'm going to start in a seat that's not going to really support me that well. And you should be able to see with my t-shirt that there's sort of a doming through the upper back. My shoulders are rolled forward. And this is really convenient for work, right? It sets me up with my head forward towards the screen. My momentum is all sort of like leaning forward into the potential workspace. And this is gonna eventually feel real nasty on your back. So by contrast, I'm gonna try to keep the natural curves of the spine in my seat. Optimally, your thighs are parallel to the floor or tilted slightly down so that your knees are just below the thighs. What does not work well is any seat where your knees are higher than your thighs. You may have heard people talk about the psoas muscle, this giant core muscle that runs from the top of your femur bones all the way up to the mid spine. When we are in what we call a contracted seat with knees higher than thighs, that musculature is necessarily tightened and contracted. And the psoas muscle is related to your fight or flight system. So you may find yourself in something like a contracted seat with an escalated or upregulated nervous system. The simple strategy of getting your thighs down to parallel to the floor with feet on the floor can start to relax the body. Side body long, shoulders up and back, really spacious from hips to shoulders, whereas that space is shortened with less room for the breath if your shoulders are rolled forward. I want to show you one other thing in that seat. Say you're a shorter person and your seat is higher, and at your office you sit in a way where you're either always crossing your ankles or your feet float off of the floor. Again, this causes the muscles of the tops of the thighs and core to be constantly contracted. Put a book underneath your feet so that your feet rest comfortably with weight in them while your thighs stay parallel to the floor. Again, as we talked about at the beginning, screen at natural eye level. This is another place where a detached or separate keyboard can really set you up for success. You know, I work a lot on a laptop. I need to have a separate keyboard because otherwise, for the screen to be at natural eye level requires my hands to be up here, where my shoulders are really condensed around the neck. That's another strategy you can use in your seat is, can I have my hands down in a relaxed position where there's a soft bend in the elbows as my hands rest on the keyboard and the screen is at a natural eye level. So there's some seating ergonomics for us. And from there, we're going to do a few simple stretches. You can do these either seated or standing if you have a wall space available. So whether you are standing or seated, if you're in a chair, you want the wall to be to your left to start. And in the chair, you would be a distance from the wall where your arm can be straight and your hand at shoulder level. If you're standing, it's the same thing. Hand at shoulder height, arms straight. Great simple stretch for those of us that are working on our computers a lot. You turn your feet away from the wall so that you get this nice opening across the pecs and the front of the shoulder. You press from the shoulder into the hand. So if you're able, stand up or from your seat, start to do this with your left arm. And you can move your chair. It's okay if you have to go away from the screen. Get your body moving a little bit. This is going to be about 5 minutes. And you can do this in your chair. Same thing, by turning your body away from the wall. You want your head and your neck in a neutral position. And you press from your shoulder into your hand connected to the wall. If you're standing, take care not to lock out your joints so you have some softness in the knees. Release and switch sides. So now you're either turning around so that your right hand is connected to the wall. If you already did the right hand, you're just switching to the left. Or you can turn your chair around. You come to the wall, hand at shoulder height, roll your shoulder up and back, turn your feet away from the wall, press from your shoulder into the hand connected to the wall. Take care not to strain or lead with your head and your neck. Your head and your neck are a gentle extension of the rest of the stretch. You should feel nice opening across the front of your chest and into the shoulder. And again, you can do this seated or standing. Okay, release that. We're going to use the wall for one more stretch. For this stretch, you bring your hands to the wall at shoulder width and shoulder height, and you start to walk your feet away from the wall. So you have this nice long spine, and your chest is softening down towards the wall. With firm contact between your hands and the wall, just gently hug your forearms towards the wall, but press your biceps away from your ears, like you're getting a little more space around your neck. Again, a nice chest opener, setting up the body with some contrasting movements to the way that we're seated through the rest of the day. Good. Walk your feet back towards the wall. Again, you can do that same thing in a chair. And I want to show you one more stretch. So if you have a yoga mat in your life, that's great. If your office is carpeted, that's great. You can also use a towel, a blanket, or a little rug, just something to cushion the knees. And this is a simple low lunge position. Now, the reason I'm picking this stretch has a lot to do with those seating ergonomics we looked at. So with your left leg forward and your right leg back, you're just in a simple low lunge position. And we checked out the way that the thigh muscles and the psoas muscles deep into the belly, they are contracted in a standard seating position. So a low lunge gives an opportunity to really draw those muscles long. The back toes are uncurled. You're pressing down through the top of the back foot and reaching your arms up. Just a nice lengthener through the whole back leg, maybe even up into the belly. Yeah, just like that. And the front of your throat is open and the back of your neck is long. Good. Release. Step your left leg back, step your right leg forward. Simple second side. Low lunge. Pressing down through the top of your back foot. Reach your arms up. Wherever you are, seated, standing, relaxing, stretching, find your breath. Be conscious of your breath. Good. Release that. Step back. You can make your way towards standing or your seat. I'm going to turn my video off one last time as I cruise back to my seated station. And I'll see you in just a moment. Great. Okay, any questions that came up as we were doing those stretches, things that did or did not work for you, or parts of your body that you're like, I really need a stretch for that part of my body during the workday and I don't have one? I'm immediately thinking as I ask that, the neck. So again, from our seat, just taking one hand up and over to gently catch along the opposite side of the head. Allow the bottom ear, we're all doing different sides, that's fine, to settle down towards your shoulder and breathe into the open or long side of your neck. Really simple. You can do it seated, you can do it standing. Release, other side. Front of your throat nice and open. Yeah, good. Release that. You can just roll your shoulders a few times. Yeah, good. Okay. So yeah, any questions? Shelby, do you have a question or something you wanted to say? Great.
Yeah, what about like lower back?
Good question. So I would say the one shape that we did with both hands against the wall, I should have had you ask these questions while I was still at the wall. I'll remember that for next time so I could show you. But the one that we did at the wall where we stepped our feet back away from the wall, that's great spinal lengthening. Downward dog, hips as the apex of a V shape, again, really releasing for the low back. Downward dog and forward fold with your knees bent. so that you're emphasizing the length of your spine over straight legs. Really nice for the low back in particular, because it reverses the direction that gravity is pulling on the spine. So you can get some nice spaciousness pretty quickly after a long time seated with bent knee downward dog or bent knee forward fold. Yeah. Anybody else? How does that feel? Any questions? Great. You all loved it. Okay, so we are going to go into breakout rooms and do a paired exercise together. Take a deep breath about that. It's going to be fine. It's very casual and relaxed, and it is an extension of the writing contemplation that we did together. So if you can come back on camera, do so. And here's what we're going to explore. We asked in our writing contemplation about our long-term vision for our health, our wellness, and our stress management. In the paired breakout room, which is going to be essentially a listening pair, the prompt, the question with which to engage with your partner is, what is one short-term change or habit you could create to move you one step in the direction of that long-term vision that you outlined in your power contemplation? Let me say something to you about this listening pair. So you're each going to have 3 minutes to speak, and you're going to use a timer. You'll be the speaker for 3 minutes. You'll be the listener for 3 minutes. When you are the listener, your job is to beam at your partner this kind of energy. You're smart, you're resourceful, and you're going to figure it out. Just look at them like you like them. We need each other's interest to do our best thinking. Okay? You don't need to give them advice. You can be a warm listener. You don't need to tell them how this relates to something you've experienced. Just give them your full warm attention with the attitude that they are resourceful and whole, and they will figure it out. And they're just going to use your attention to name whatever thoughts arise in answer to this question. What is one short-term change or habit you could create that would move you one step in the direction of this larger vision for your health and well-being? You can, excuse me, you can use your timer or your phone to time. You want to have a quick switch. Nana's going to set us up with a little bit of slack time for switching, and you're each going to have 3 minutes. Does anybody have any questions or anything that's not quite making sense about this exercise? Great. So you can send us off. You each take 3 minutes. You're either being a deep, warm listener or sharing your thinking, and then we will come back together. I like this in the chat. Got some accountability partners for stretching during the day. Thanks, Nana. think she needs a message from me to bring people back. I'll just send
Word.
that.
I'm gonna take this opportunity to eat my cabbage.
Great. Well, this is a good sign. People just couldn't bear to leave. No
Sorry about that.
problem. It's great.
I ended up having to be in a room, so then it was hard for me to know.
Totally. No, that's great. People are making their way back. Great. Is that everybody?
I think so. I think we lost.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, so now anything that you noticed about that exercise, whether it was your experience of listening in that particular way, anything that you want to share about what you came up with as far as those short-term steps you could make to move you in the direction of your longer-term vision for your health and well-being. Yeah, just anything you noticed about either the side of being the listener or being listened to in that way, ideas that you came up with for short-term actions, anything you want to share, I'll start. So what I noticed is like, I just always feel so much less alone when I hear somebody else describing things that are so resonant with me, like the things that Dorothy shared reminded me that like a lot of these problems are not like things that are wrong with me particularly, or things that I struggle with. They're like human struggles and they're workplace struggles, and sort of helps me remove any sense of like blame or self-criticism, to remember like we all have these struggles and we all have these bodies that feel good some of the time and give us discomfort and struggle in other times. And yeah, I just appreciated that from sharing time together. What did you guys notice? What came up? Strategies, listening like that. What was it like?
I'll go. I don't know. Were we supposed to share strategy after listening for each other? 'Cause I don't think we did that. Or were we just listening?
You in the group?
Yeah.
Or so it was like 3 minutes to listen and 3 minutes to share. However you did it is fine.
Okay. Well, Tanya and I were ironically paired together and both night owls. And so I just found that interesting because that's not something I struggle with, but I feel like maybe like it's not a normal societal thing, you know, that's not when you work. And so I struggle with whether that's like right or wrong, like should I be doing that or not doing that? But that's like when I'm most productive at night, and it doesn't really align with normal culture. So how to balance that for myself, and I don't always think it's healthy, but maybe setting some boundaries for myself around it. And I don't know, that's just something we talked about. I don't have all the answers for it.
And the balance of that, Nana, like, you know, where you notice, okay, this isn't what most people do, but it works really well for me. So do I need to problematize it? Mm-hmm. And then noticing, oh wait, it went too far, I did it too many days or something, and now I don't actually feel good. Like, but not naming something as a problem just because it's like not the norm, if it works really well for you. And like the balance of that. That's great thinking. What else?
So, yeah, and it was interesting that we were together because very similar things. I think, along those lines this year, what I did was just set boundaries for myself, but not necessarily for work because, I won't work really late, but just for myself in general,
Yeah.
to say no and okay, I'm not gonna watch TV, I'm gonna go to bed and read, and I'm going to bed at a certain time because I get my energy at night.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's great and really helpful. And my conversation with Dorothy reminded me, I was like, oh yeah, we have to at least mention sleep. Like how important sleep is and how much more able we are to make better decisions throughout the whole rest of the day when we're rested. And all of the standing and emerging research about sleep quality. I have a list of tips I'm going to put into the chat here in a minute. And I'm also happy to send you resources, podcasts, lists of tips, different exercises you can do post this session. But yeah, sleep, so important. And so difficult for some of us to prioritize amidst a full life with family and work and taking care of ourselves and our relationships and our households, to say like, I gotta get enough sleep. And I think we noticed this like in terms of efficiencies. It's like, okay, I might sleep for an extra hour, but then I'm going to be so much more efficient throughout the rest of the day that time I'm afraid has been lost is actually accounted for through my improvements in efficiency. What else did you guys notice in this exercise? Was it difficult for anybody or different for anybody listening in that way? That was like, listen and just look at this person like you're really smart and resourceful and you're going to figure it out, not like, I don't know. I'm curious about people's experience of that. We got some great sleep and some rough sleep experiences. Yeah. Continuing to be efficient at work when you're not sleeping well is incredibly difficult. That's one of my other tips I'm going to put in the list, is like those blue blocker glasses that are like sort of trendy right now. Blue light is not inherently bad. You want it in the morning. You want it through the beginning of the day. It gets your metabolism, your circadian rhythms going. But in the evening time, when the sun sets, when you would naturally not be getting any more of that spectrum of light, you can buy these cheap blue blocker glasses if you know that you're going to be watching TV or still on your screen doing some, later night work, and they will prevent that light from signaling your brain and messing up your circadian rhythms. Okay, I asked you a question and then started talking about something else, but what else did you notice about the partnered exercise? What was it like? What came up?
Oh, sorry. For
Oh,
me,
great.
listening and actually looking, because I listen, but I don't know, I get like tangled up in the words. So I have to look at other things so I can focus on hearing. And I don't know why that works for me. It just does. So I
Yeah.
probably always look like I'm not paying attention. But if I'm looking at you, I can watch your lips move and hear you talking, but not know at all what you're saying. So I have to work on that.
Yeah, work on that, or like just the intelligent recognition that your brain processes in a way where you need to have eyes set softly on something else to really take in somebody's meaning. And it reminds me of the same thing Nana was describing. It's like, if this works well for me, does it have to be a problem? Like maybe I just say to someone, hey, I do my best listening when I have sort of like a soft gaze. So know that I'm hearing you, where, oh, I don't have to do the like expected societal norm of like really intense eye contact if that's not going to set me up to hear somebody well, and again, the balance. Do I want to try some more eye contact, see if I can focus, or let my coworker or my family member know like, hey, I'm hearing you. This is what works for me, That's great, Shelby. Thank you. still want to know other like experiences of the paired exercises, but now also opening it up to any other questions you have for me that have arisen during the course of the session, you know, stress management, the stretching, the contemplation exercise, any other questions or thoughts you want to share, and use me as a resource for as we come towards our closing.
I just want to say that I thought that this was wonderful. The first exercise that we did, I made it a point to actually use a pen and paper and write my thoughts down rather than just typing them into a Word document. And I forgot how important and powerful that is. It allowed me to focus by holding the pen, it made my mind focus. And I also really appreciated the prompt that you gave us for listening, as in listen supportive and enthusiastically, and don't look to offer or share advice, which was great because I feel like that's a lot of us. For me personally, I do that, thinking that I always have to help, but forgetting that sometimes it's just nice to listen or to be listened to. So I thought that was really great.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That is excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, the pen and paper, it changes I think so much of it is like it changes the pace and it's tactile in a different way, you know, and you've got to slow down a little bit in a different way than how our attention works at the computer. And yeah, just like the power of the breath cannot be overstated, the power of deep listening cannot be overstated. What else did people notice? Any questions that you have? Anything that came up? I'm just going to give it a few more seconds for people to consider if they want to share anything or ask anything. You have me as a resource right now, so use my attention and my thinking. Any questions? Anything that like didn't work well for you, or that you are thinking you want to take into your work environment? What you got for us?
I definitely, oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I definitely,
Shelby and then Chris.
okay. I definitely picked up on the lifting of the laptop to be at eye level. Because I feel better. Like my neck likes me a little bit more today.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. It's nice when we get some quick positive feedback from our bodies. What about you, Chris?
Well, Lisa and I talked a lot about taking breaks, and because we both, we get into work mode and we just kind of work our way through it and get stuck in that, stuck in the groove, and forget to take breaks sometimes. And also being better about feeling okay about taking breaks. You know, we both skip lunch sometimes just because we're just working right through it. And taking a lunch is new to me because it's something I never really had opportunities to do because I would just work right through the whole day, and allowing yourself to take that time, whether it's take a full lunch break or just have a little break to stretch or something like that, and also not punishing yourself for doing that. Taking that time for yourself because you need it and it helps. It makes you more productive.
Absolutely. And this is so helpful. I'm so glad you said what you said because it reminded me of two things. One is that you do not have to earn rest. Like you are an animal that has to rest, like, and you have to eat. So it's like the bare minimum. Like if you do one thing after this session, never again shame yourself for needing to eat and sleep because this is completely natural. You don't have to earn it. It's, you can reward yourself, but these are just your needs. You don't have to apologize to anybody for needing those things.
Yeah.
The other thing you reminded me of is what? Taking breaks.
Yeah, it doesn't
Oh,
remind.
oh, taking breaks and eating. So you reminded me of this, and Dorothy, you also reminded me of this. Since we're part of the natural world, like you're a creature made from the earth, you respond to the cycles of nature, even if you feel disconnected from nature. So like it's springtime. Some people might be noticing they have a little bit more like up and out energy. There's starting to be some more socializing. It's also, you know, the ebbs and flows of what's allowed in relation to the pandemic. In winter times, there's less light. You might want to go to sleep earlier. You might have that more cozy, like soup on the couch energy, and not to blame yourself for those shifts, like recognizing that those are natural and cyclical and they will continue to change. I think that's really helpful and important. I'm just putting into the chat this list of tips. I always forget. Can you cut and paste? Can you copy and paste from the chat? I think you might not be able to. You can? Okay. So that's just a list of tips for people that you can take with you. And again, feel free to reach out to me, either if you're interested in health coaching support or if any questions kind of come to mind or percolate after the session. I'm also writing my website into the chat. You can check out different pieces of writing and other tips there. And we're going to just close with a simple breath exercise and we will be on our way. So in your very good seat with your nice tall spine, roll your shoulders up and back one more time, grounded through your seat, nice open chest, close your eyes, simple 3-part breath. All I want you to feel is that as you inhale, you can relax your belly so that your breath moves deep into your abdomen. Then your rib cage gently expands and your chest lifts. As you exhale, feel your chest settle. Rib cage draws gently in, navel gently in towards your spine. Full breath in, belly expands, rib cage expands, chest lifts. Long exhale, chest settles, rib cage and belly draw gently in. One more time, fill up deep into your abdomen. Rib cage expands, chest lifts. As you exhale, chest settles, rib cage settles, belly draws gently in. 3-part breathing. Take one more deep breath. Exhale. Open your eyes. Thank you so much. It was really good to be with all of you. I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope to see you again in the future.
Yes, thank you, Hillary, so much. I think this is the most relaxing morning of work I've had ever, maybe. So we really appreciate you sharing with us. Thank you to everyone who participated. And just a reminder, there's happy hour later today at Liquid State from 4 to 6, and we hope to see you all in person. Thank you.
Thanks so much.